Chairman, what would you regard as the highlights achieved in the past year, both on and off the pitch?
Well, again, it was another really excellent year for the club. A lot of positive stuff going on. Off the pitch, certainly in the financials, it was really, really positive. Our turnover at 124.6 million was 3.9% last year. Profit before tax of 17.8 million and more than 72 million in the bank at the end of the year in terms of cash reserves. So really, really positive off the pitch. Those cash reserves and the strong balance sheet that we have allowed us to invest in the squad in the summer. We broke our transfer record on 2 occasions. We've invested in Lennoxtown, an upgrade. We've invested here in terms of the infrastructure changes that needed. And of course we've got Barrowfield, which is a really exciting project that will hopefully be open in January and will give us great benefit for the long term in terms of the development of our kids and the women's football. And the other advantage having such high cash reserves has for us is that this is this is an uncertain industry. When you're winning, everything is fine, but we need to provide for the longer term if things don't go quite as well as they have been in the past. So we can see, looking elsewhere, what happens if you don't participate in the Champions League for a year and you replace that by Europa League. So that is a difficult financial challenge we have looking forward. So all in all, off the pitch, really, really positive. On the pitch, again, another great year. We won the double. We won the Women's SWPL for the first time, and we qualified for the Champions League last year for the men, and this year for the men and the women. So a great year, and credit to everybody that's involved.
We've enjoyed considerable success in recent years. What's the club's wider strategy going forward then as we aim to maintain that level of success?
The strategy has brought us great success and really has been proven over the years. So it's really based on creating and adding value throughout the club. So for example, it's very difficult for us to obtain ready-made Champions League players. So really we need to create Champions League players. That means through our academy and through our recruitment, bringing young players here to develop, to put in the first team, to hopefully play in the Champions League, and then progress their careers. And if they want to stay here, fantastic. But if they don't, we transfer them and reinvest the transfer money back into the squad. That's basically how we approach our player recruitment. Of course, you need more experienced players to bring that balance, develop the kids on, and that's part of the package for the first team. So again, we need to create a circumstance where our coaching behind that creates a team with the players that we're bringing in to develop. And on the commercial side, for example, we are a hugely popular club around the world. We're a huge institution, but we don't have the mass audience that comes with Real Madrid, Man United, Man City. So we have to create a way that we can get more people to come to Celtic. We play in Scotland, it's a small league, and therefore that doesn't attract mass audience. So again, we have to be creative. We have to be creative in social channels and our own platforms and put that together to create exciting, new, innovative content that actually attracts people to Celtic. So overall, I think it's served us well, the strategy, and therefore we'll continue down the line we've been for the last 20 years.
You yourself were recently made Vice Chairman of the European Club Association. How important to the club is Celtic's involvement at such a strategic level in the ECA?
Yeah, well, the European Club Association is recognised by UEFA and FIFA as the sole and independent representative of the clubs around Europe. There's around 700 clubs in it. So to have a seat at that table, I think, is really important for our club and for Scottish football. The positions I have, it takes up a lot of time, but the positions I have as Vice Chair of the ECA, which is chaired by Nasser Al Khalifa, the PSG President. I'm on the ECA Executive Committee. I'm on I lead the ECA Finance Working Group, and I'm on the joint venture company between UEFA and ECA that is responsible for all the commercial and administration aspects of the European competitions, which is the Champions League, Europa League, the Conference League, the Youth League, the Super Cup and the futsal. So it's really, really important, I think, for us to be involved. In the achievements of the ECA, just to give some perspective, the achievements of the ECA over the last few years is heavily involved in the new European competition formats, access and the distribution. We have played a huge part in the new financial sustainability rules, which gives a bit more competitive balance, or hopes to give a bit more competitive balance in the competitions, and also make more sure that clubs will live within their means. They've also been heavily involved in the solidarity increase for the non-participating clubs, the Champions League. So, for example, the fact that we're participating in the Champions League, I think this year other SPL clubs will get around €1 million a year from the solidarity, which is quite significant for these clubs. And finally, we were again instrumental in providing the club benefit scheme, where clubs are compensated for players going into international duty. So a lot of important stuff, a lot of positive stuff, but primarily it gives us a seat at the table to help influence and define the future of European club football.
So looking ahead now, what are the main challenges and opportunities which face Celtic?
I think that the challenges are probably as they are. It's to keep maintaining our dominance in Scotland. The challenge is obviously to improve and progress in the Champions League, be regular participants, improve there and get as far as we possibly can go. The opportunities, I think, all centred around European competition. I think the fact that we have a bit of influence, we need to make sure that European club competition goes the way we want to go, maybe expansion, and the new format actually gives us more games, more certainty, there's more clubs in it, and potentially more money. So really to expand in that going forward, and I think the opportunities certainly lie in Europe rather than here at home in Scotland. And finally, once again, thanks to everyone for their fantastic support over the years. It's been vital to this club in terms of the success we bring. It's vital for us for the future. So thank you. You can be rest assured that this board and everyone at this club will be doing all they can to bring more success to the club for our fans. So thank you.
Michael, Chris, we're here to talk about last season. Michael, what were the achievements over the last financial year for you?
Well, it's been a great year. The women's team have made history twice. First of all, here at Celtic Park when they won the league for the first time in the club's history, and a fantastic day in May. And then moving on to qualify for the Champions League group stages for the first time in the club's history. So it's an amazing achievement for the women's team and for the club as a whole. I'd like to thank Elena, Kelly and all the players and staff for that fantastic achievement. And the men's team, we won the double, which is fantastic. Last minute goal at Hampden for the drama, and to come back here to celebrate with the supporters was also amazing. So I'd like to thank Brendan, Callum and all the players and staff on the men's side for their fantastic contribution to a great year. It wasn't all plain sailing during the year. We had some challenging times. What was important was that we worked through those together, we stuck together, and I'd like to thank the supporters for the massive part they played in that, all part of the process in bringing the club through. I'd also like to thank all of our colleagues for the amazing work during the year. Without the work that they do, none of this would be possible, so I'd like to thank them on behalf of the club also. Chris,
you're all about the numbers. Could you give us an outline perhaps of the club's financial performance during the last year?
Yeah, I mean, a brief summary, Jerry, would be revenue was up 4.7 million to 124.6 million, which is a record for the club in its history. That was largely down to increased media rights distribution from UEFA. Profit was down quite significantly to 17.8 million, but that was all entirely in expectations. We expected that throughout the year. That was down to three things. One, the absence of some one-off exceptional items which existed in the prior year. Secondly, the absence of player trading gains, again as we sought to just keep the best players in the squad. And thirdly, just an increased investment in the first team squad.
And we know how important Europe is to Celtic, but how important specifically, Chris, is the Champions League?
I mean, if you look at the women's game and the men's game, Jerry, for the women's game, it's the first time we've qualified. It raises a profile, it gives the players experience and really drives that side of the club forward. For the men's side, it's vitally important from an economics point of view. The difference between the Europa League and the Champions League has never been more stark, and that's evident if you look at a set of accounts with a Europa League participating team versus a set of accounts with a Champions League participating team. So it's important that we don't lose sight of that. The new format has been hugely exciting. It needed it. I think everyone would agree 8 matches is good news for us, and also that jeopardy further into the league phase also introduces that additional dynamic as well. But in summary, it's where we need to be as a club.
Of course, financially being in the Champions League means that we can end up with high cash reserves in the bank. What's the What's the rationale and logic behind sustaining those levels?
Well, I mean, it's two things, Jerry. It's one, it gives us the flexibility throughout various transfer windows to invest when we need to invest. But secondly, it allows us to run the business normally if we're in the Europa League for a period of time. Now, the cash won't last forever, but what it gives you is runway. You can run your business under normal operating conditions without necessarily having to sell some of your marquee players, and allows you to invest into the squad at the same time.
Michael, looking ahead then, the objectives, what are they moving forward?
Well, as I said, we had a good year last year, and it's important that we build on that success. There's never time to stand still at Celtic, and it's important that we use that success to invest. So on the pitch, that's about investing in our football operations. That's the key to our success, and that drives everything else in the club. In the coming year, we'll be investing in recruitment in our academy and taking those functions forward. Our model's flexible. It's about investing what we can when we can. And really it's about creating Champions League players. That's quality and value. It's about our academy, our recruitment and development.
And of course you brought in Paul Tisdale as the head of football operations. How important is his role in the operation of the club going forward?
It's going to be a really important role for the club moving forward. Paul's remit is to come in and support the club around talent identification and talent development right across the club. As I said earlier, that dials right into the strategic objective for the club. So we're looking forward to working with Paul moving forward to support the football operations.
To be successful, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Chris, perhaps if you could give us an outline as to some of the developments in the infrastructure that have taken place.
We've got three major sites at the club: Barrowfield, Lennoxtown and Celtic Park. We finished a major redevelopment and refitting of Lennoxtown in the year, which brings our first team facility up to a high standard, which will future-proof that for a period of time. There's parts of Celtic Park which are over 100 years old. The main part of the stadium is approaching 30 years old now, so that needs to be maintained. And a lot goes on behind the scenes which isn't always entirely visible, or dare I say it, not particularly exciting, around replacement of the roof, repainting of the structural support beams and so on, but all of that costs money and all it is vitally important. And finally Barrowfield, our women's first team training facility and a boys and girls academy is our third site. That will come on stream January 25 as a plan, and it'll be an outstanding facility and again future-proof that side of the club for a number of years to come.
Michael, you've spoken about some of the areas regarding on the pitch. Off the pitch though, has there been any developments, any exciting projects happening?
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to the infrastructure projects that Chris has identified, we're looking again to build on the success and continue to invest. So we're looking at exciting international development projects focusing on the island of Ireland and North America in particular. We've invested heavily in our digital strategy review, and we're going to be looking at rolling that out across some key aspects of that. And in the summer, we were delighted to carry out the largest survey of Celtic supporters we've ever had the ability to do. We're putting a lot of work into that to analyse the results and work with our supporters to ensure that we have the right engagement with them moving forward. So it's a really exciting year ahead.
And Michael, we're here, 60,000 supporters can fit into Celtic Park. How important, how crucial are they to everything we do?
Yeah, supporters are everything for Celtic, whether it's here at Celtic Park, away grounds around the world. And this year we've had an important victory at Motherwell in the second part of the season where the supporters were crucial to that. We had a winner in the last minute of the Cup final. We had the supporters here for the women's team in the last day of the season here, with thousands of supporters over in the States for our tour over there. So I'd just like to thank all the supporters for everything they do for Celtic on behalf of the club and everyone here.
Tony, first of all, if we could just take a step back. For those who don't know, what is it that Celtic FC Foundation does?
We do two things, Jerry, that are broadly in line with the formation of the football club. So, this idea of a club open to all, the first thing we do is that we include people who would otherwise be excluded. And the second thing, which is arguably the most important of the two, is that we try and help people out of poverty. So poverty has got two parts. There is a more sustainable way, if you like, around taking people permanently out of poverty by helping them into employment, for example. So we work with a lot of young offenders, we work in prisons, we bring them here to the new hub that we've got here at the stadium. And our job really would be to try and keep them out of prison, but get them ready for employment. The quick impact way of helping people with poverty is to open the stadium 4 times a week, which we do through Paradise Pit Stop. So 2 evenings and 2 afternoons, we bring in other experts and medical providers as well, and we provide a hot meal in a really, really nice environment. So those are two of about 20 things that we do within those two headings of poverty and inclusion. In terms of inclusion, we deliver a suite of projects called Ability Counts. We do that here in Glasgow. We work in 4 different places in Ireland with Ability Counts. We've just partnered with Sligo Rovers in Derry, in Mayo and in Donegal. That's aimed at children and young people who are neurodiverse or who have Down syndrome or who've got complex physical disabilities. And we run dementia care projects in Glasgow and Edinburgh. And what we try and do, we raise a significant sum of money through Celtic FC Foundation in the UK and Celtic FC Foundation Incorporated in the USA, but we try and spend 75% of that here in our home, predominantly in the north and east of Glasgow.
Many football clubs have charities. How does Celtic FC Foundation differ from many of those?
I think the starting point for us is that we're really happy to be one of 42 clubs in Scotland that are doing something within their own communities. Everybody does stuff different. There's no right or wrong answer. But for us, the biggest asset we have is the club brand. It's the club's intellectual property. It's bringing people to the stadium, to the sensory room, to the hub that I've spoken about, bringing them through the front doors, bringing them in here to this magnificent arena. But it's not about football for us, and it's not about brand. I have no interest in teaching kids how to play football. It needs to be meaningful for us. We need to do something with people that's going to have a meaningful effect on their lives.
So looking ahead then, you've spoken about all the great projects the foundation does. What are your priorities moving forward?
So the biggest priority at this time of year is the Christmas appeal. So last year we managed a record-breaking year, £397,000. We helped 31 charities who look after people whose lives are chaotic, women and children in refuge, refugees, the homeless community, and we also helped hundreds of families and individuals who were identified to us predominantly by schools as the most vulnerable within that particular community. And we helped them with Christmas, we helped them with gifts for the kids, we helped them with clothing, we help them with food. We also have a partnership with the Fuel Bank Foundation. We invested significantly in that for a couple of years. They're now investing in us to employ a fuel advisor to help people manage their domestic fuel, which is continually rising gas and electricity. Another priority, and as part of the Christmas appeal, was last year for the very first time, because we'd been running Paradise Pit Stop for a year at that point. We opened the stadium here on Christmas Day, had a proper Christmas lunch and a party, Santa and gifts for the kids. We managed to do that for 150 people. Our aim this year is to do that for 300 people. So we need help with that as well in terms of raising the right amount of money and making sure that we get as close to what we did last year, which, as I've already said, was a record-breaking year at nearly £400,000. We need to make sure that the projects that we deliver, we have those as sustainable, so that we don't talk about quick wins. We can make sure that they can continue, and in order to do that we need to keep raising money. So these big events that we have in London, in Glasgow and in New York are a big priority for us, and the people in those places who work behind the scenes to help us organise them and help us sell them are really vital to what we do.
It sounds like a massive undertaking, and I'm sure a lot of it goes on unseen, behind the scenes. So what does it take to deliver all of this on an ongoing basis?
I think there are so many stakeholders here. This is the club's charity. We were both at a colleagues event recently, and I looked out across, and there is not a department here at the football club that doesn't contribute in some meaningful way to what Celtic FC Foundation does, either in the UK or in the USA. So first of all, a massive thanks to all our colleagues here at the football club. We rely heavily on funders and on our partners. So for example, Celtic are playing UEFA Champions League football away in Europe. Dafabet come off the shirts and they allow Celtic FC Foundation to go on. When we run the Christmas appeal, Magners come off the back of the shirts and they allow Celtic FC Foundation to go on. Fleet Alliance hand over their minutes for the LED digital perimeter boards and allow Celtic FC Foundation to go on and promote one of its projects. We rely heavily on the trustees and the directors of both the club and the foundation, and of course supporters clubs, individual supporters across the world, and supporters association. We are so grateful for the support that we get in a backdrop of so many other things going on, both in terms of a really, really bad economy and other priorities for supporters. They raise money for their own appeals, and they're doing so much out with what we do here at Celtic FC Foundation. So many people to thank.
Elena, how pleased were you with last season? What would you see as the main achievements?
Main achievements, obviously, when we won the league. That was the most important because it also set the foundation for this season. But yeah, obviously winning the league was the biggest achievement.
Yeah, but the first time, of course, it's happened, you know, making history like that, showing progress, but doing it in your first season as well, you must have been very proud.
Yeah, obviously I was very proud, but mostly I was very happy for the players, especially for the players that have been here for a long time, to achieve it for the first time. But it was not only that, I think they bought into the project and what I want us to achieve in the long term as well. And that was just the first step of what we want to become and how we want to be perceived as a team. So that's what I was obviously most happy about, because you can see how that is just progressing into where we are right now.
Yeah, those players that have been here for 10 years, more than that, they've been through a real journey because women's football is progressing at such a pace.
Yeah, and obviously I think I said it to Kelly Clark when I signed that I really want her to lift the trophy and winning the league. There's more players, of course, who's been here for a long time as well, but I think from where they started with Celtic and where we are right now, there's a big turnaround. So yeah, I think I'm very happy to see the players achieve the goals and dreams.
And to give them that moment at the end when Amy scored that goal, you know, we didn't do it the easy way, took it right to the death, but what a fairy tale ending.
Yeah, I think to do it together as well with the fans at Celtic Park, to celebrate together, I think that was something that nobody will never forget, and very proud to make sure that we are the team that gave our club the first title, and we've also been saying that we want to write history, we want to grow, we want to get better, and we want to do it together with our fans. So that's something we want to continue to do.
As a head coach and the leader of that group, I'm sure very quickly you started thinking about the next stage, the next level. You never stand still. When you look at the performances that you've had this season in the Champions League, first time any Scottish women's side has been in the group stages. Most recently, to take one of the best teams in the world, Chelsea, to, you know, right to the end, must have been very proud. Is that the kind of level that you aspire to?
Yeah, I think obviously when I came here, I said that we want to put Celtic on the map. And I think we've been achieving and creating even more history this season because of the mentality change, the environment change, and the structure change we've had within the team. The new recruitments, the new players coming in, a bigger squad, which allows me to rotate more because of all the games that we've had so far. And I think obviously playing against Chelsea at Celtic Park, getting that performance in shows where we want to be and also how much we want to grow, because we want to compete with the best. For me, if you're in Celtic, if you have this badge on, that's something that we want to do. We want to make sure that we compete in Europe, but we dominate in Scotland.
Yeah, and to be the best, you need to have the proper infrastructure and the proper, you know, support and resources. There's going to be a big change this year with the opening of your new training centre at Barrowfield. Just give us an outline as to the improvements and what that will mean for you in comparison to what you were working with before.
No, I've said it since I came in, like I want players to act professional and live professional. And obviously like coming in, changing the schedule, having double sessions, making sure that players are here as a work to, like they want to come here to be the best they can be. I want those players to belong to Celtic. Like I want players that wants to do everything they can to get even better, and to have Barrowfield with those facilities will give us a total different environment, because if we can be closer to the players, if we have the gym, we have the pitches close to where we're going to be, I think that 24/7 living professional is going to help a lot, because the feedback that we can give the girls, the save of the time of not traveling from Celtic Park to Barrowfield, like everything is just going to make a better approach to how we want to be perceived and how we want to act in different situations. And obviously for me, if I want the best players in Celtic, I think Barrowfield is a fantastic facility that not many teams in the whole UK has. So that will bring us a better possibility to bring even better players in as well. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so just finally, with the fact you're now champions, you'll have a great new training facility. What are the main objectives going forward?
We just need to grow. For me, I've said it from the beginning, this is the start of something new. And I think Celtic FC Women right now is showing what we want to become, not only domestically but out in Europe. I mean, if we can compete with a Chelsea with full national team players everywhere and also on the bench, and still do what we did really well together as a team, we know that the structure around the team is so much bigger than us as well, but I think it's starting to show what we really want to do and how good we are as a team and how we want to progress and how we want to learn, how we want to grow. And I think that hunger of always wanting more is going to be something that will get us more successful.
Brendan, what were the highlights for you for last season, having returned to the club as manager?
Well, I think first and foremost coming back was a great honour to be asked by Dermot. It was to get the chance to come back was a real privilege. So that was the first highlight. I think obviously over the course of the season, seeing the growth of the team, it was probably my first job coming into where the team has actually been in a really good place on the back of Andrew's great work here for a couple of seasons to take over that team that had won the treble. And I've obviously been in charge of teams that have won the treble, so I understand the next bit. And sometimes it's not quite like we had in our first year when we won the treble. The second year we won the treble again, but it wasn't quite of the same intensity. And I felt that probably in the first period of the season with the players and the energy, not quite at the level I would want it to be. But I think as we formed that connection and started to work closer together, as the season went on, it looked more like a team that I would have wanted us to be. And then, of course, to win the title and finish off with the Scottish Cup, making a double at this club is still a very, very good season. And it was a great finish for us.
As you say, domestically winning the double was a brilliant return. Was the Champions League essentially still a work in progress for the squad that we're perhaps now seeing the fruits of?
Yeah, I think that was the beginnings of it, and I mentioned that when I came back. I would have loved us to be a really competitive team in European football, and because we hear all the stories that Celtic's a great place to come and play from all these other great teams and players and supporters that want to come to Celtic Park. So, and we want that to be the case, but we also wanted to make it a really, really, really difficult place to come and play. And I think we had that last season, the beginnings of that, in terms of the Atletico performance and the Lazio performance, even though we lost out late. So the seeds were sown last season within that, and then obviously this coming season, it was 3 out of the 4 games have gone well for us.
Yeah, particularly the recent match against Leipzig, that brilliant night. Is that the template you strive for going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the notion. I think the first game against Bratislava was a great evening for the club to be that aggressive and score the goals and play so well. That was a great start for us. Dortmund, we know, can happen at the level, but the response of that really showed that these players and how honest they are and how committed they are to our plan, and to then go to Atalanta, a team will probably go close maybe in the Champions League this season to keep a clean sheet. I think that gave us great confidence that at this level against a really, really top team we can defend as well, because you have to. You don't have all your own way. So we took that confidence then into the Leipzig game, and to play that well and that consistent within the game and be that exciting. I thought it was a great night, and as you say, it's a template for us going forward, and as I said, it was a really pleasing performance.
The club brought in some players in the January window of last year. You've also developed the squad further in the summer. You must be happy with the strength and depth which we now have at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be competitive, you have to have that. The guys come in January, offered us great support to the end of the season. Obviously, we were able to make Adams move permanent. He was a real catalyst for us, I felt, coming in January, what he gave us through to the end of the season. To be able to top that up over the course of the summer and add that quality and that power, I felt that we needed power at the level, at the Champions League level in particular. So to get Arne in, obviously he comes into the same position as Matt, but he's a different type of player. But we've seen at the highest level what he has given us in the games athletically, and his power has been very important for us. And he's a young player that has still a lot of development. So him and the other players that have come in, they've definitely made us stronger.
In terms of recruitment and other areas of the football department, how important will Paul Tisdale be to the club in his new role of head of football operations?
Yeah, I think in a modern day club, someone within that role is very important. You know, as the manager, of course, you're overseeing a lot of the core performance area of the team, but there is a side to it that is very, very important. And between Michael, Paul and myself, we can make that really work and feed back into the board that operational side. So I think Paul coming in, he's got a great experience in football as a player, but managed a lot of games as a manager, so he'll know the challenges that you face as a manager in terms of trying to build a competitive squad to make it sustainable and consistent. But he can operate at that board level and understand the business side as well. So I think from a club perspective, it was a really good appointment.
And in terms of infrastructure, there's been significant improvements made to your training centre at Lennoxtown, largely unseen by the supporter base, but very important to the functioning of a top-level football team. How important have these developments been?
Very, and I think it is a great credit to the board and the club, because it is something that they always want to do. They always want to improve, whether it's facilities or anything to do with performance, both at Lennoxtown and here at the stadium. So the new facility that we have at the training ground in terms of the medical centre, there's other areas that is looking to be improved on there as well. And it is important that you continue to do that, because the game is evolving all the time on and off the pitch, and it's certainly something that we as a football club want to continue those improvements.
Just finally, Brendan, looking ahead then, we're currently in a very strong place both domestically and in Europe. What do you see as the challenges that await us as we head towards 2025?
Yeah, I agree. The team's in a really good place mentally, physically. We're at a really good level. Started the season ever so well. We now go into this period now where the squad will really be tested. But I think the key message is just one game at a time. It's as a supporter, you'll always look beyond and you look to the games further down the line. But as a manager and our coaching staff, you really prepare for the next game. And there's going to be so many games, and we'll need the squad. And I think this is where hopefully the strength of our squad comes in. The players have all been contributing so well. It's the big crime, and I can't play them all at the same time because they all work so well. But they will get opportunities now over these coming months, and hopefully we can get out the back of that in a really strong position.